Hey everybody, what is going on? HexLex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Today we're going to be talking about Maliss combos. I'm going to show you the new combo lines with the Ignisters support and just how much better this deck is going to be. Let's not waste any more time. We're going to get right on into it. We'll start off with a simple Dormouse line. We're going to begin by normal summoning Dormouse and then activating her effect in order to banish a March Hare from our deck. This will in turn allow us to activate the March Hare effect in order to add back to our hand. Alright, now let's go ahead and link off our Dormouse for the link decoder. This is the same way we began the Dormouse combo line before this wave of support, but it's going to diverge here in just a moment. We're going to use March Hare to banish the Dormouse that we used to link summon link decoder. And then Dormouse will allow herself to be special summoned back. Alright, now we're going to take all three of our monsters and link them into Red Ransom. Worth noting that Red Ransom is going to be the 5th summon. This is the point at which you'll be vulnerable to Nibiru. I say vulnerable, I guess, in the sense that your opponent can activate Nibiru, but it's not going to be enough to stop you from comboing. I'm going to point out why at each point your opponent could in theory use Nibiru. With Red Ransom, we're going to want to add a copy of Maliss In Underground from deck to hand. Now, I opened a copy here, but as always, we're just going to pretend I opened that one Dormouse and nothing else relevant in my hand. So we're going to add Maliss In Underground. Now here, your opponent could activate Nibiru. This would leave you with a Nib token that has 0 defense, of course, and 3200 attack, but you could activate Maliss In Underground to banish Malice in the Mirror, banishing Red Ransom, and continue comboing that way. Alright, what we are going to do is we are actually going to then link these two off. Now, in previous combo lines, you would go into Appaloosa. However, now we're going to go into Cyber's Wicked. Whenever you're summoning Wicked for a combo line, make sure it's always in the EMZ, because the arrows only point down. So if you summon Wicked to a main zone, you can't summon a monster to a zone Wicked points to. Again, if they Nibiru you here, we can still just activate Maliss In Underground. But let's go ahead and do that now. We're going to banish a card. We're going to banish Malice in the Mirror, as mentioned. And now we can activate Malice in the Mirror. And this will banish the Red Ransom that is in our graveyard. And we're going to add a White Rabbit from deck to hand. Again, pretending we didn't already have a copy. Now, let's go ahead and summon the Red Ransom. Make sure it is in a zone that Wicked points to. And then we can banish another card from our deck. We're going to banish Chessy Cat. And then we can activate not only the effect of Wicked to search, make sure that's Chain Link 1, that way we are chain blocking it, getting rid of either of your Malice monsters in the graveyard. And then we're also going to special summon Chessy Cat. We're going to put Chessy Cat over here, and then Wicked will allow us to add the backup Ignister from our deck to our hand. Now, this is another point in which your opponent could, in theory, drop Nibiru on you. However, if they do so, keep in mind that we have Link Spider in our extra deck. And because Link Spider is a Cyberse monster summoned from the extra deck, we could then special summon backup Ignister, adding the backup wizard. Backup wizard can then summon a Maliss card from our graveyard, and then we can still go into our combo even through the Nibiru. So even though we're not going into Appaloosa as quickly, we still play around it. Speaking of Appaloosa, we can just go ahead and make that right now, actually. We're going to use the Red Ransom as 3 materials, and then we'll just use the Wicked as 1. Now we got our monster negates up. Let's go ahead and activate our Chessy Cat, banishing the White Rabbit. And then we can not only draw 2 cards, but of course we can then also summon the White Rabbit. Also worth noting, this is the first point in your combo line, if you were chain blocking like I showed you, where you're actually vulnerable to Ash Blossom. But of course we can always use Appaloosa at this point to negate it. Alright, we'll activate the White Rabbit, and we'll set GWC 06 from our deck. Alright, now let's make the Splash Mage. Throw that right over here. And now we can activate our Splash Mage's effect, reviving one of our Malice monsters. Doesn't really super matter which one. And then now, actually before we make White Binder, Let's go ahead and summon our backup Ignister. And we'll activate the backup Ignister effect. And we're of course going to be searching the wizard Ignister. And discarding just any other card in our hand. It doesn't really matter which one at this point. Alright, let's see. We can then summon the wizard Ignister, targeting really any one of our Maliss monsters. It doesn't matter which one. And you're seeing just how good this is at extending, literally just filling up our board here. What I'm actually going to do is I think I'm going to make Heartscriptor first. Let's go ahead and make Heartscriptor with one of our Maliss monsters and our 2 Ignister cards. This looks a little weird to be making Heartscriptor mid-combo, but then what we're going to do is we're going to make Whitebinder using Splash Mage, and then we can use Heartscriptor. That way now when we summon Whitebinder, we can activate the effect and banish the Heartscriptor out of our graveyard. Which will then of course allow us to special summon Heartscriptor. Again, looks a little weird to be making Heartscriptor mid-combo, but during our opponent's turn, we can use Whitebinder to do what we basically just did here. Banish and summon it, adding more disruption to our end board. But here, let's use our GWC. We can banish Whitebinder and special summon another one of our Maliss cards. Let's special summon that Dormouse that we had to banish earlier, just to cycle it back into the graveyard. Now we can activate the Whitebinder effect, special summoning it again, drawing a card, and then we'll activate the Whitebinder on field effect to set the GWC back from our graveyard. That way we can go into it again during our opponent's turn. Alright, from this point, there are, actually a number of things that you could make here. If you want to, you could make Firewall Dragon. Just note that if you do so, we wouldn't then be able to make Allied Codetalker at Ignister. We could have also, earlier, if we wanted to, made Firewall Dragon instead of Appaloosa and had bounces instead of Monster Negates. But I think the Monster Negates are better to have. They not only protect the rest of your combo line from stuff like Ash Blossom, but are just generally really good to have going into your opponent's turn. So I think what I'm going to do here is make the Allied Codetalker at Ignister. I'm going to make that with Heartscriptor. We can treat that as 3 materials. We can use Whitebinder because we can just revive that anyway. And then another one of our Maliss cards. So the Allied Codetalker at Ignister over here. And then we can activate the effect. Special summoning our Whitebinder as well as our Red Ransom. And you can see the way I did it actually even leaves an extra body on board. What I could have potentially, and maybe should have done, was actually link the White Rabbit into Lingribo, put it over here. Then I could have put Allied Codetalker at Ignister here, and then put Red Ransom and Whitebinder here and here respectively. But you could also make an argument for, I guess, wanting to keep this for, I don't know, potentially other lines. Or, again, you could also have gone into Firewall Dragon instead of Appaloosa, and then you would end on that, plus the Allied Codetalker, Red Ransom, and Whitebinder, and have bounces instead of Monster Negates. But overall, this is a pretty general idea of the kind of boards you can expect to end on with just Dormouse alone, thanks to the new Ignister support. Let's do the White Rabbit combo line. I'm going to try to go through this one a little more quickly. I stopped to explain a lot of the roles of our cards in the first combo line, the Dormouse one. But now that we've established that, we'll go through this, like I said, a little bit more quickly. We're going to normal summon our White Rabbit here and then activate her effect. Now, if you're playing TB11, you want to set that here. I'm not, though, so I'm going to set MTP. At this point, we can activate our face-down MTP, banishing that White Rabbit we just normal summoned, and we're going to want to add a March Hare from deck to hand. White Rabbit's effect will allow herself to, of course, special summon back to the field. And we can also activate March Hare, banishing the MTP out of our graveyard, and special summoning as well. Alright, let's link these two off into Splash Mage. Of course, because we're going into Splash Mage early, we are cut off from Appaloosa. This doesn't really matter that much, though, especially now that we have Allied Codetalker at Ignister. We can still just end on a negate anyway. Use Splash Mage, of course, to revive one of your Maliss monsters, and then we're going to summon Red Ransom. Alright, let's activate the red ransom effect. And again, just pretending we don't have any other cards in our hand, I'm going to be adding the Maliss In Underground from deck to hand. Let's activate Maliss In Underground. And we can banish a card. Yes, we're going to banish Dormouse, which we can then activate in order to summon back to our field. Let's use Dormouse's effect. And we're going to banish the last Maliss monster that we haven't summoned yet, which is going to be, of course, Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat F in order to summon. Throw her right over here. Now, we are going to be making Wicked using Red Ransom, because again, remember, Wicked always has to be in the EMZ, and using another one of our Maliss monsters. And from this point, we can actually summon Link Decoder using the remaining Dormouse. And this will, of course, trigger the Wicked's effect. We could even banish the March Hare for Wicked, since we haven't activated the effect to add back yet. And then we'll be adding the backup at Ignister. March Hare's effect gets to add back to our hand. Always good to have a March Hare in your hand for your opponent's turn. Lets you play around a lot of stuff that they do, potentially. Okay, let's go ahead and use the effect of our backup at Ignister. And let's activate in order to add, of course, the Wizard at Ignister. And then just discard any other card, whichever one is least relevant to you. Alright, from here we can use the Wizard at Ignister effect, reviving one of our Maliss cards, and summoning like so. Alright, now, let's see. There's a couple of different orders. I mean, as is the case with a lot of Maliss combos, you could order this in a couple of different ways. Of course, just keep in mind that we already use Splash Mage, right? So you don't have access to the Splash Mage revive. But what we could do is actually summon the Hearts Cryptor first again. We're going to use Link Decoder. We need to use our Maliss monster. And we could just use the Wicked, or we could just use one of these other things. We'll just use one of these other things. We can keep the Wicked as a link to and use that actually to make White Binder. We'll also, of course, trigger the Link Decoder in order to revive. Alright, now let's make White Binder using Wicked as 2 materials, and then that Hearts Cryptor we just made. And then now we can activate the White Binder effect to banish the Hearts Cryptor out of our graveyard. And we actually also have not banished Red Ransom yet, so we could go ahead and do that as well. Now we can summon both of these. Now for Red Ransom, we're not actually going to be banishing anything out of our deck, because we've already used the banish effects of all of our Maliss monsters, so I'm going to click No here. And then we get the Hearts Cryptor summon. Alright, let's go ahead and set GWC from our deck while I'm thinking about it here, off of the White Binder. And now I want to do something that's going to look a little bit weird, but I think is actually quite good. I'm going to activate Hearts Cryptor, and I'm going to put back the MTP that I had to banish earlier, and banish my White Binder. This will, of course, trigger the White Binder effect to summon back. Now, you might be wondering, well, Hex, why didn't you banish White Binder off of GWC like you do every other combo line? But actually, the reason I did that was not even more so for the White Binder summon, but actually more so to put MTP back in my deck. Because now I can still go White Rabbit, set MTP during my opponent's turn and get a banish, whereas in older combo lines, you would have missed out on that. Anyway, we can go ahead and summon the White Binder here, drawing a card from our deck, and at this point, let's see, let's go ahead and make the Firewall Dragon, using White Binder as 3 materials and the Link Decoder. It's important to put Firewall Dragon in whatever main monster zone is directly underneath the EMZ that you're going to be summoning to, because now we're going to go for Allied Code Talker, using that as 3 materials, and then our 2 remaining monsters. Allied Code Talker at Ignister goes up here, and then we can activate the effect of Allied Code Talker at Ignister. No need to use this effect, we don't need the extra body here. Also, we can't summon anymore after these summons anyway, so we can put Red Ransom here, and White Binder right over here. And there we go. Now we have set up not only, of course, our Omni Negate, but Firewall Dragon for bounce 3 as well. This also, as mentioned before, actually put the MTP back into our deck to then set off White Rabbit and get another banish during our opponent's turn. So this is what your end board should be looking like after White Rabbit normal summon. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to combo with Maliss In Underground. We, of course, are going to start by activating our field spell, and we're going to want to banish a Dormouse from our deck. So, of course, trigger the Dormouse in order to special summon. And then once Dormouse is on the field, we can activate her on-field effect in order to summon, or banish, rather, and then summon a White Rabbit. We're going to do White Rabbit. Now, you'll need to forgive me. I misspoke earlier, and hopefully I added an annotation when I did to correct myself, but I'll correct myself here as well. I misspoke earlier when I said that you only set MTP on the normal summon White Rabbit line. We're actually going to activate White Rabbit to set MTP here as well. Alright, now we are going to go into Splash Mage. We'll use the White Rabbit and the Dormouse, of course, to do so. And then once we've summoned Splash Mage, we can activate in order to bring back one of our Maliss monsters. Of course, keep in mind, as with every combo line that does so, when you summon Splash Mage early, it means you're no longer able to go into Appaloosa, but that's okay. We're going to make Red Ransom using Splash Mage and the Maliss monster we revived. Summon that right over here. And we're going to activate Red Ransom, and of course, since we started our combo line with Maliss In Underground, we're actually not going to be adding Maliss In Underground. Instead, I'm going to be adding Maliss in the Mirror from my deck to my hand. Now what I can do is activate the MTP that I have set. We're going to banish Red Ransom, and I'm actually going to be adding Chessy Cat from my deck to my hand. So of course, trigger the Red Ransom effect. We can special summon back to our field, and then we can banish another card from our deck. We'll banish March Hare, which is the last banish effect we haven't used yet. Actually, we haven't used Chessy Cats yet, but we're going to use that here in just a moment. It's the last one that's still in our deck. But we have not used our normal summon yet, so I can normal summon Chessy Cat. Now I'm going to activate Chessy Cat. I want to banish the Maliss in the Mirror that we added off of Red Ransom to draw 2 cards. Then I can activate the effect of Maliss in the Mirror, and I'm actually going to want to banish the MTP that's in the graveyard and use that in order to add GWC from deck to hand. Now that looks a little bit weird. You might be thinking that why wouldn't you just add the GWC or set it off of the White Binder effect? And I'm going to show you later in the combo line. For now, though, let's go ahead and summon Wicked using Red Ransom and Chessy Cat as materials. And then now we can special summon March Hare. And let's do so by banishing the Chessy Cat that's in our graveyard. And we'll summon March Hare to one of the zones that Wicked points to. This allows us to go Chain Link 1 Wicked, and then banish either White Rabbit or Dormouse, doesn't really matter which one. But then we can chain block Wicked with Chain Link 2 Chessy Cat. Alright, now we've used the banish effect of all of our main deck Maliss monsters. We're going to throw Chessy Cat right over here, and then Wicked, of course, is going to add the backup at Ignister, which we will then activate backup at Ignister. We'll summon, and then activate the summon effect. Of course, we're going to want to add Wizard at Ignister from deck to hand, and discard another card. Doesn't really matter which one, as long as we don't need it. Let's activate the Wizard at Ignister, bringing back the remaining Maliss monster in our graveyard. And of course, we're also going to want to make sure we go into Link Decoder. Always important to have that Link Decoder extra body there. Alright, let's see. We are going to make Heart Scripter using Link Decoder and 2 of our other monsters. I'll use backup at Ignister and then just one of my Maliss monsters. Doesn't really matter which one. Alright, it's Heart Scripter. We can activate Link Decoder and revive. And then now we're going to make White Binder using Wicked as 2 materials, and then Heart Scripter. Will allow us to activate the on-summon effect of White Binder to banish the Heart Scripter from our graveyard. We've already used the banish effects of all of our other Maliss monsters, including Red Ransom, so we're only going to be banishing the Heart Scripter. And this will, of course, allow us to summon back the Heart Scripter. Now, we are much like our White Rabbit combo line, and this is why we banished MTP earlier. We're going to be activating Heart Scripter to actually put the MTP back into our deck. This will not only allow us to banish White Binder, to then summon her and draw a card, but more importantly, now once again we can actually set MTP off of White Rabbit from our deck during our opponent's turn to banish a card on our opponent's field. We get to draw here. Alright, let's make our Firewall Dragon. We'll use Heart Scripter as 3 materials, and then one of our other remaining cards. Let's use Link Decoder. It doesn't really matter which one, just as long as you're not using White Binder. As always, we're going to put Firewall Dragon in the zone directly beneath whatever EMZ we're going to summon Allied to. And speaking of which, we're going to summon Allied with our remaining Maliss monsters. Allied Code Talker goes up here. Now we activate the Allied Code Talker effect. No need to use Firewall Dragon's effect. Summon back White Binder and Red Ransom. We even still have the GWC, plus all the other cards you drew. And there you go. Same setup as the White Rabbit, ending on the Allied Code Talker, the Firewall Dragon, as well as Red Ransom and White Binder with the set GWC. Alright, let's show off the next combo line. Alright, let's show off the Gold Sarc combo line. We're going to activate Gold Sarcophagus and banish the Dormouse from our deck. Of course, triggers the Dormouse effect, special summoning to our field, and then we can activate the on-field effect of Dormouse in order to banish the White Rabbit from our deck. We're going to activate the effect of White Rabbit in order to special summon. And then we can activate our White Rabbit effect. And we're going to set MTP. I already have GWC in hand here, but even if we didn't, we're still going to set MTP here anyway. Alright, now let's go for the Splash Mage using White Rabbit and Dormouse. Can then activate the effect of Splash Mage, bringing back one of our Maliss monsters. Which we will then, of course, go into Red Ransom using that Maliss monster and the Splash Mage. Okay, we're going to activate the Red Ransom effect, and we can add Maliss In Underground from deck to hand. We are then going to activate. Banish a card. Yes, we're going to banish the Chessy Cat from our deck. And then activate Chessy Cat in order to special summon. Alright, let's go ahead and use MTP now. We're going to banish Red Ransom. And this will allow us to add March Hare from deck to hand. Of course, the Red Ransom effect will trigger here. At this point, there's really not a need to banish a card, though, because if you look, we've actually already used the summon, banish effects of all of our Maliss main deck monsters, and we've already added March Hare from deck to hand, so no need to banish one of those from decks, though. I'm actually going to click no here. What we can do, though, is we can activate Chessy Cat to banish March Hare from hand, get a couple of draws, and then March Hare just comes right back to our hand with the pay 300 banish effect. Alright, after getting some free draws there, we can go into Cyrus Wicked using Red Ransom and Chessy Cat. And then let's activate our March Hare. And I'm going to banish MTP from the graveyard again. And we'll, of course, make sure that we're summoning the March Hare to one of Wicked's zones. That way we can activate the Wicked effect. Banishing... We'll just do our Dormouse. And then we can add Backup at Ignister from deck to hand. Alright, let's activate the effect of Backup at Ignister. to summon, and then activate in order to add Wizard at Ignister. Discarding just a random card. We'll go activate Wizard at Ignister, bringing back one of our Maliss monsters. Alright, we of course always want to make Link Decoder before I make a Link 3. And the Link 3 that we are about to make is going to be Heart Scripter. We'll use Link Decoder, backup, and then one of our Maliss monsters. Okay. Link Decoder effects to activate. Put that right over here. Now let's make our White Binder. Use Wicked as 2 materials, and then we'll use the Heart Scripter. This will allow us to on-summon White Binder effect, banishing Heart Scripter out of our graveyard. And then we can summon back the Heart Scripter. Alright, now, the only real kind of difference here is that we are one body short. Basically of doing the exact same thing that we did last time. So, there's a couple of different ways that you could shore that up. If you wanted to, you could use White Binder to set GWC from deck here. I already opened it, but then we could activate GWC, banishing White Binder in order to revive a Maliss monster. This will, of course, then trigger the White Binder effect. Drawing a card. And then now we have enough bodies to go into Firewall Dragon and then Allied Code Talker at Ignister. It is worth noting that because we did it this way, we don't actually get GWC because we would have already used White Binder's effect to set. Here I can still activate it only because I opened the GWC. Now the other thing that you could have done is just simply normal summon any monster that is normal summonable in hand. That is definitely the better way to do it. Then you still have access to GWC, but I wanted to show how to do it if you didn't have a normal summon at all. So again, much like the other combo lines, after summoning Firewall to the zone underneath the EMZ, we're going to go Allied Code Talker at Ignister effect after summoning, and bring back the White Binder and the Red Ransom. But again, of course, we do unfortunately lack the GWC here. That said, like I said before, you could easily shore it up with any normal summon. So while I did show off the technical, like one card you only have Gold Sark and nothing else, not even a normal summon line, just know that by giving up your normal summon, you can have access to GWC still here. So, alright, there are still a couple lines I want to show off. There's one more kind of like main line I want to show off with the backup at Ignister. Let's do that. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to combo with backup at Ignister. Somewhat similarly to our last combo line, this actually does require you to have another just random normal summon. Our last combo line, you could actually get away without a normal summon, but if you only open backup at Ignister, you do need at the very least, again, any hand trap that you can normal summon. So let's normal summon our hand trap, and then we'll link it off into Salamandrate Almirage. Very important to be playing this card in your extra deck for this exact reason. Now we have a Cyber Monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, so we can special summon backup at Ignister. And then we'll activate backup at Ignister's effect in order to add... We're actually going to be adding Maliss Dormouse from our deck to hand this time. It's a little weird. Every other line we've added Wizard at Ignister, but no, this time we actually want to add Dormouse. And this is also going to seem weird, but you then want to discard exactly Dormouse. Don't discard anything else, discard Dormouse. You want to add and then discard Dormouse. And the reason that we're doing that is because we can then go into Splash Mage. Alright, let's activate our Splash Mage's effect. We're going to revive the Dormouse specifically. And now we can link into Red Ransom using the Splash Mage and the Dormouse. Alright, Red Ransom effect. Let's go ahead and add Maliss In Underground from deck to hand. Now we can activate Maliss In Underground. Banish a card. Yes, I'm going to be banishing Maliss in the Mirror. We can activate the effect of Maliss in the Mirror, banishing the Dormouse that's in our graveyard. Because remember, we haven't actually used the banish summon effect of Dormouse yet. So not only do we banish Dormouse, we then also get to add March Hare from our deck to our hand. Alright, Dormouse's effect activates. Summon right over here. And then activate the on-field effect of Dormouse for White Rabbit. Go White Rabbit effect. And we will activate our White Rabbit. And we can set GWC. Okay, let's see. Let's make Wicked using the Red Ransom, even though, again, it's in the extra zone. We want to make sure that Wicked is in the extra zone, so do use Red Ransom to make that here. And then we can do this a number of ways. Let's go March Hare, banishing the Red Ransom that's in our graveyard, and summon to one of Wicked's zones. Just let us go Chainlink 1 Wicked, and then we can banish, we'll just banish the Almirage here. Then we can go Chainlink to Red Ransom. Help us do a little bit of chain blocking there. Alright, we'll go for the Red Ransom summon. Banish another card, yes, we'll banish Chessy Cat. And then Wicked effect, we're going to add backup at Ignister. Now let's activate the Chessy Cat effect. And summon. Alright, make our trusty Link Decoder. Of course, we always want to make sure that we're doing that at some point in the combo line. And then at this point, we can make our Heart Script using Link Decoder. And I'll just use Chessy Cat and Dormouse here. Alright, boom, there's Heart Scripter, Link Decoder revives. We can then summon our White Binder using Wicked as 2 materials and the Heart Scripter. So let us go White Binder effect, banishing the Heart Scripter. And yeah, we haven't used March Hare's banish effect either, so we'll use that as well. Let us go for Heart Scripter and then also March Hare effect. Adding back March Hare. And we'll throw that right over here. Okay, now we don't have a MTP to put back from the banish zone, so this time I'm going to use GWC in order to banish White Binder. Plus we are going to need the extra body here, so we'll summon the extra body, gain our life points, and then of course we were able to summon White Binder. And draw a card. Alright, let's make Firewall Dragon. As always, in the zone directly underneath the EMZ, where we're going to put Allied Code Talker. And now we're going to make Allied Code Talker. Oh wait, but first we have to activate White Binder and reset GWC. Now we can make Allied Code Talker. Everything besides Firewall. And bada bing, bada boom, here's Allied Code Talker's effect. And there is our end board. Beautiful stuff. Alright, so those are all of the main combo lines uninterrupted. I did touch upon in a previous video some lines that let you play through Lancea. I'm going to show those again here. Okay, so I'm going to show you now how to play through Lancea. Artifact Lancea is a card that has been very devastating to Maliss in the past, but now, as long as you have a copy of Backup at Ignister, it is pretty much a moot point. So let's say you go normal summon Dormouse, and I won't actually click to activate the effect here, but let's say you click activate effect, and then your opponent throws out a Lancea from their hand, right? So your board state would be exactly like this: no cards banished, of course, because you can't, and only the Dormouse on the field. with the backup Ignister in your hand. So what you would do is, at this point, we can link off our Dormouse for Link Decoder. And then we can activate our backup Ignister, since we now control monsters special as Cyber's monster, special from the extra deck. Activate the optional effect of backup Ignister. We're going to be adding the Wizard Ignister from deck to hand. And discarding just another random card in our hand. Now we can activate Wizard Ignister, targeting the Dormouse that's in our graveyard. And summon both monsters. Alright, now we can make Red Ransom, since we have access to a Maliss card again. We're going to use her, Link Decoder, and then another one of our leftover Ignister monsters. Alright, from here we activate both the effect of Red Ransom, as well as our Link Decoder. So let us search and also chain block the search. Now, keep in mind, this is the combo line that we're doing under Lancea, so you don't want to add Maliss In Underground because you won't be able to activate the effect to keep extending into your combo line. Instead, you want to add Maliss in the Mirror to have another negate for your opponent's turn. And alright, now at this point we can go for our Allied Code Talker, using everything that we have on board. We'll trigger the Allied Code Talker at Ignister to activate, and we can special summon the Red Ransom back to our field. After that, we'll set Maliss in the Mirror and then pass over to our opponent. So this does get you a couple of negates and a banish, but you do have to do this in a specific order. Because in order to do the Omni Negate for Allied Code Talker, you need to tribute a Link monster this card points to. But in order to do Maliss in the Mirror, you have to banish a Maliss monster on the field. So, ideally, sometimes you are going to be forced to use this first, but ideally, you first activate Maliss in the Mirror, banish Red Ransom, negate one of your opponent's monsters. Red Ransom, banish effect, then activates to special summon, then banish a Cyber's monster from deck. The Cyber's monster that we want to then banish from our deck would be White Rabbit. Of course, White Rabbit would then allow you to summon and set MTP, and now you can use MTP to banish a card on the opponent's field. After that, then you can use Allied Code Talker, tribute Red Ransom for the Omni Negate. Ideally, again, you might not always get that chance, but in an ideal world, that's how you play out your negates for the board under Lancea. Alright, let's say you've got a hand like this. Actually, let's assume this White Rabbit is another hand trap here. Let's assume you've got a hand with Maliss In Underground and backup Ignister, right? Could be Goldsark as well. You go to activate Maliss In Underground / Goldsark, and then your opponent chains Lancea. So we're going to click no to banish a card here. So if you're in a board state like this, where all you can really do is normal summon backup Ignister, here's what you do. You normal summon backup Ignister. We can then activate and search for Wizard. And discard a random card in hand. Alright, now at this point, we're going to make Link Decoder using backup. And now we can go activate Wizard effect, because we control the Wizard. Let's revive backup. And now what we want to do is actually summon Splash Mage using Wizard and backup. Let's use the Splash Mage effect and summon one of our Ignister monsters. I'll just throw it right over here. Now this line is why I play Transcode. Transcode can come up in some other situations too. But now we can use Splash Mage and Link Decoder to make Transcode. I'll throw that up here. Alright, Link Decoder we'll put over here. And we'll use Transcode to summon Splash Mage here. Alright, at this point, let's just make the Allied Code Talker at Ignister, using Transcode, Link Decoder, and you can either choose to use Splash Mage or your mini Ignister monster. Here's Allied Code Talker at Ignister, which will then activate, reviving the Transcode. And there you go. It's only one Omni Negate, but it's definitely better than nothing. Also worth noting that transcode is protecting the allied code talker from being targeted, thanks to its effect. So like I said, definitely better than the nothing you were previously ending on. And for those curious, here is my current list. I'll be going over this list in more detail here within the next couple of days when I post some gameplay with this list. Hopefully this video helped. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe if it did. If you want to see content like this early, also make sure to join as a YouTube member. And we also host exclusive content over on Patreon with coaching options as well. Anyway, thank you so very much, like I said, for supporting the channel and watching this video. Let's move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.